Hello, everyone. I'm just going to get some things set up here, and then I'll go ahead and start. Today, I'm going to be talking about persistence and how to balance that while living your everyday life that you live. So, I'm going to be talking about what it means to hold on to your manifestation, sort of the difference between being obsessed with it, always keeping it on your mind while embodying it, while not taking the mindset of not feeling like it's so far away. Okay, so the first thing I'll mention here today is talking about what it means to be obsessed with your manifestation and why this is important to manifesting. Now, when you think about obsession, typically it means that you are only thinking about that thing. Now, obsession can be a bad thing if the energy is directed in a negative way. Now, typically things have a positive way to express themselves and a negative. When you're trying to manifest something, you want to embody the state while being obsessed with it. But you can be obsessed with it and also feel like it's very far away. Because you can be obsessed with the idea, but you will not feel like it's yours. So what sometimes you see is obsession being connected with embodying a state. What this means is you say, this manifestation is mine. Whether you want money, you want a relationship, you want a better job, it's already yours. This is what obsession means in this aspect when you're trying to embody something, when you're trying to physically manifest something in your experience. You can be obsessed with something to the point where you push it away. Now, one of the easiest ways to describe this is actually thinking about a relationship, because you've probably seen where somebody's been very obsessed with somebody and they actually push them away. And this is because they feel like that person is not theirs. So they have to overcompensate, they have to do things, and it's to the point of annoyance where you get pushed away. So that's what the difference is. One obsession is embodying, and one obsession is I don't have. So you want to learn how to embody the state of having and not putting in lack instead. You don't want to feel like what you're trying to manifest is not yours, because then you're just manifesting more of it's not mine. And when it's not yours, it just becomes farther and farther, and then the gap gets bigger. So then the obsession becomes one where it's actually unhealthy for you, where you're actually better just letting go of what you're trying to manifest. So there's the big difference. You want to learn how to embody what you are manifesting. This happens with persistence. When you are obsessed with your manifestation, you naturally persist. You naturally take the steps to follow through with your manifestation. It happens with practice, with persistence, which is the next point, persistence. Persistence simply means that you maintain the state. It's not something that you necessarily think about one time and then it stops. It's something that continues to happen continually in your everyday life. Now, a lot of times people are confused because it's hard to keep up a state while living in your everyday life. And what I mean is, if you're trying to manifest money and you're having a hard time paying your bills, it can be very difficult. Because then you say, well, how am I supposed to keep up this embodied state when I experience my everyday life and I see that I'm struggling and I see that nothing's changing? So what you want to do is persist in the end state. And what this means is, let's say you meditate, let's say you journal, let's say you have a vision board, whatever technique that you use, whatever thing helps you get into the right state, the right mindset. You maintain this state even outside of your everyday experience. So a lot of times attention is misdirected when it comes to manifestation, because what happens is you say, well, I can't pay my bills, so therefore the state I'm trying to persist in is not real or it doesn't exist. But what you got to do is actually change the way you think about things, because if you were persistent in maintaining a state, the way that you think about how you are paying things and your physical existence changes. And what I mean is, if you're struggling to pay your bills and you're trying to manifest money, a lot of times people who struggle complain about what they're going through because it's hard, it's difficult. So it's more like, well, it's hard for me to pay my bills. I wish that my bills weren't so much. I wish that this was easier. I wish that I had a better job. So you're emphasizing more of lack by consequence. And this happens because we're just used to thinking this way. It's more about feeling the distance more. Like I was mentioning earlier, the gap just gets bigger. And then as you continue to dwell in what you don't have, your attention goes there and it continues to manifest in a circle. So instead of persisting in your state, you're now persisting in the opposite state. You're now persisting that your life is continually going to be the same, where you're going to continue to struggle, you're going to continue to not have what you want. And this is the state that's being emphasized here. So persistence is just recognizing that even if you're struggling, it's saying, I'm at least grateful for the little bit that I'm paying. I'm grateful for what I have currently. You're changing the state of attention and you're changing your state of awareness from lack into slow abundance. You're building it incrementally, slowly. It doesn't happen over time. This is not something that has to happen in one big movement, one big motion, because it can be very hard for you to go from one state to another, especially when that gap is big. So what you do is do it slowly, slowly by identifying what you do have and what you are grateful for. And then you persist in it, and then that grows and compounds into bigger manifestations, bigger states of awareness, and then just bigger overall rewards at the end. Because it's something that you're developing, something that you're growing into, having the state fulfilled within yourself, believing that you have a way out, believing that this is not it. But it all depends on your attention and where you're putting that attention. Whatever happens in your life is reinforced by your attention. And this is how it works in manifestation. Whatever you put your attention in is what continues to happen. So it gets reinforced and it continues to happen in the same way. This leads to the next point, which is going to be about gratitude. A lot of the time, you'll see gratitude. You have to be grateful. You have to be grateful for all the things that you have and everything that you're going through. And this one makes me laugh. I think this one's funny because some people actually gratitude themselves into more manifestation of the same thing. So you can actually get stuck if you're being grateful for the wrong thing. And there's a difference, because you can be grateful, for example, for going through hardship. And this happens a lot of times because when gratitude is expressed in a way where you're enhancing what you already have, it continues to happen. So as I mentioned, wherever attention goes, it reinforces what's already happening. So when you're grateful and you say something like, well, things could be worse. I'm so grateful for all this suffering that I'm going through. And then you don't really mean it, or you don't acknowledge anything else about it. It just continues to happen. I'm so grateful that I don't have any money because it could be worse. So you're trying to make something good about what's happening, which is not necessarily bad, but you're not dwelling in a different state. You're still in the same state. You're just being grateful of the state that you're in, which is fine. Again, a lot of people cope this way, but this just means that nothing else is going to happen because you're just being grateful and then you're solidifying that state within you. Now, what you want to do instead is to be grateful for the new state that you are embodying over here. You're no longer giving attention to the state that you are in. Instead of being grateful for the hardships that you're going through, you're being grateful that you are moving away from it. You're being grateful that you are able to pay things. You're grateful for the things that you do have that are positive in your life, not necessarily the events. So there's a big difference. You don't want to be grateful that you're going through something terrible, per se. You don't want to be grateful for that. You want to be grateful that it wasn't worse, or you're grateful that you have something good. So for example, there's a few examples I can give. With the money, if you're struggling, you don't want to give thanks that you are struggling, because then you see how the attention is given towards you struggling and the pain. Instead of looking at the pain itself, you're saying, I'm grateful that I'm able to pay what I can. I'm grateful for what I do have positively, away from the pain, away from the struggling. If you have bad health, let's say you get in a car accident or something, you don't say, I'm grateful that this happened, this car accident, for whatever reason. You're not looking at the pain or the harsh event itself. You're looking at, I'm grateful that I'm healthy. I'm grateful that whatever you can extract out of it. You don't want to continue to manifest these negative experiences in your life. So gratitude can do that sometimes if it's directed in the wrong way. You want to be grateful that you are moving away from these negative experiences, embodying a different state. Manifestation is not simply about manifesting physical things, manifesting money, cars. It's about manifesting your experiences. So with this being said, whatever experience that you go through, there's something that you are repeating in your subconscious mind that continues to mirror this in your physical reality. So whether it's gratefulness, whether it's your attention going to the wrong place, you have to direct it where you want it to go. And this is embodying your state through persistence. You have to persist in the end where nothing bad happens to you, where only good things happen to you. And these are how positive experiences continue to happen to you despite what you are going through currently in your physical reality. And there's a big difference, because it's hard to manifest when you're experiencing things currently while trying to maintain a state. In the Bible, there's a story of a widow. It's actually in Luke, which describes this very well, mystically and symbolically. Because there is a widow who is trying to get justice from a corrupt judge. Now, she wants what she wants, a desire. You have a desire, whatever that desire may be. She persists in asking the judge for what she wants. And the important lesson in the story is that through her importunity, which is the word, importunity, this means persistence to the point of annoyance, the judge actually grants her desire. And this is a big deal, because this is what we must do. We must be importunate, or whatever the word is. Have importunity within ourselves. Persistence to the point of annoyance, to the point where the universe, God, gives us our desire just through persisting that we are our manifestation, by simply embodying the state. That is what persistence is. It's showing up every single day saying, this is what my life is. This is what I am grateful for. This is what I am today. Doing this every day at every moment that you possibly can. Not forcing it, just allowing it to be. Being persistent, being obsessed, embodying for what it really means. Another lesson here is actually in Genesis with Jacob, where he's wrestling with God. And now, when you typically wrestle with God, this represents that you're trying to struggle with what you want and then what you don't. This is known as wrestling, because if you've wrestled, it's very exhausting. So all of the mental chatter that goes on in your head, let's say you want more money. You look around in your physical life and you say, well, I don't have money. How do I get from point A to point B? This is wrestling, because now you're going through ideas, you're going through thoughts, you're going through things. Or let's say you want a better relationship, a better job. You say, how am I going to do that? You start wrestling with ideas. Maybe I should go out more. Maybe I should do this. I should call up this person. You go through all these scenarios. This is wrestling mentally. What you want to do instead of wrestling is stay within the embodied state. And this is what this story represents. Jacob wrestling God. At the end, Jacob says, I will not let go until you bless me. This is persistence. This is maintaining the state. This is holding on to it until you get something in the end. Grasping, in other words. As soon as he stops wrestling, that is when God blesses him. So there's a difference here as well. It's not about wrestling. It's about simply being in the state, allowing it to flow, allowing it to happen. And that's how you manifest. So when I speak on persistence, or when you hear that online, when you speak about obsession, when you speak about embodying a state, it's not about forcing it to happen. It's not about fighting. It's not about it being something difficult, forceful, harsh. It's about letting it go. And it can be contradictory because it's like, how do you be obsessed with something? How do you persist in something and then let it go at the same time? What you're looking at here is actually holding on to something. That's what it means. To persist simply means to put it on, kind of like you put on clothes. That's it. You don't have to force clothes on you. It's sort of like something that you pick up and you put it on. But if you don't do that, then you're just going to have the same clothes you used to have on. That's it. It's not something you force. It's just something that you do. It's something that you put on, in other words. You put off the old man and you put on the new man. It's all mental, and this all happens within you. It's not about forcing it. And there's a big difference. That's what persistence and obsession should mean in manifestation. In Ecclesiastes as well, this is said mystically. It says, all things are grasping the wind. You don't want to grasp the wind. All things are kind of pointless if you can't grasp it, if you can't hold onto it. If you're obsessed or you try to persist in something and not hold it and not have it within you, or in other words, embody it, feel it, have it exist within you as if it was real, then it's pointless because you're not grabbing onto anything. You're not holding onto anything, and it's just far away from you. There's always going to be you and your manifestation, you and a big gap. You want to have it where it's you with your manifestation, you and your manifestation here within you. It's not far away from you at all. The distance is only created by the lack of understanding that it's far away. Your manifestation is already yours. So a lot of times people say, okay, I'm going to manifest, but when is it going to happen? I don't want it to happen 50 years from now. But it's not a matter of time. When you're talking about manifestation, it should never be about time. You should never even think about the time frame, because as soon as you do that, you introduce time to the manifestation. It's always now. It doesn't matter. It's not going to happen in the future. It's already completed, it gets confusing because you can't actually answer the question of when is it going to be, because it's already now. You're just waiting for your physical reality to catch up with your mental attitude. And that depends on many things. That's one of the mysteries of manifestation, is time itself. But as far as it being completed within you, it's already completed. So it's actually incorrect to say, when is it going to happen? Because the answer is always, it already happened. And you're just realizing something. That's the most interesting thing, I think. It's one of the most interesting things because it's not a matter of time. It's not a matter of when or how. It's just realizing something that already exists. One of the strangest things in manifestation. You're just realizing. That's it. Time doesn't work the same like how we see it in a linear way here on Earth, in the physical reality. In manifestation, all things happen already. You just have to show up every single day, persist in that manifestation, and not necessarily neglect what's happening out here, but just change the way that you see what's going on in your life, no matter what you're going through. You may not change what's going on in your physical reality, but you can always change the way that you see them and the way that you experience them. And that is your superpower. That is being God. That is being a manifester, somebody who manifests. When you can change the way you see them, then it has no choice but to respond to you. And that's what you're doing. You're not changing anything physically by changing anything physically by doing something. You're doing it all in spirit, using your mind, manifesting. Persist. Hold on to your manifestation. And then think from that state. A lot of times when we're manifesting, we're not manifesting from the state that we are going out to accomplish. We're maintaining the same state that we have and then trying to add on to our life. So we can actually manifest from a state of lack, and we can manifest from the state that we're in. But this doesn't necessarily do anything, because then we will continue to think from our old state. And what I mean that it doesn't do anything is that the same experiences carry on forward. We can still feel empty. We can still feel like there's something missing while we're manifesting things and outcomes. So there's a difference between fulfilling ourselves and then feeling emptiness as we move forward. So if you guys have any questions, you can feel free to ask them there. But that's pretty much the idea. Persistence, obsession, and balancing that with letting go as well. So with the example of the clothes, like I was mentioning, to let go of something, it works in a way like that. You just put it on and then you stop. And yeah, you can feel free to ask any question. Go ahead. And there's no such thing as a weird question either. You can ask anything you want. There's always going to be a safe space, a place where you can talk about things, and it doesn't matter what it is, you know. I spoke about the story of Isaac and Abraham as well, mystically, in where you want to let go of your outcome. So I made a short about it. How it just represents how sometimes we can be obsessed with the idea of our manifestation, but two things happen sometimes. One, we can feel distant from it. And then two, we can become too obsessed only with the idea that we forget that consciousness creates reality. We forget where it comes from originally. So what happens is we put too much emphasis on money, let's say, too much emphasis on a person or a relationship or a job, as if the job or money or the external thing will save us. It's always us that saves ourselves. And that's what the story represents, because in the story, Abraham sacrifices Isaac. This represents that you're supposed to give up any idea of an external savior or external thing that can possibly save you. Isaac represents the future. He represents your future manifestation, your future desire. So he takes on the ideas of Abraham, and then it grows up, and then it becomes like an extension of him. Just like a desire becomes an extension of us, the future, in other words. We can be obsessed with money, relationship, marriage, job, as if that's going to solve all of our problems themselves by itself. But it's just a side effect of you manifesting. That's why in the Bible it describes the whole thing as Abraham has to sacrifice Isaac, because God must remind him that it's him he must look at, not necessarily his child, not your manifestation. It's always consciousness, it's always God, it's always this way. That's what we want to look at. It's never anything outside of us. It always comes from within, from ourselves. This is what it means to give heed to God, per se. We're not looking at anything outside of us. We're always going straight to the source, worshiping God, in other words, which just means look within yourself. Look for the answers within yourself. The solution to your problem is within yourself, through consciousness, through you embodying states, persisting. That's what it means. And then you sacrifice, in other words, your old self. You sacrifice even your manifestation. Because when you do this, when you let go of it, then this means that you already have it. You're already fulfilled. You see, it's a very funny thing. You persist, you obsess over it, but at the same time, you let go of it. It's released. It's gone. And that's how it works. So I'm just checking the chat here. Yeah, Alexon Vega had a question here, but I just see that he said he had a question. Okay, so I see another comment here. Yeah, so the question is here. If you can see your state with your eyes open and with your eyes closed. Yeah, because you want to feel it within you. You want to see it not only with your physical eyes, but you also want to see them with your spiritual eyes as well. So there's a difference between how they say walking by faith and walking by sight. But essentially you want to have both because there's no difference really. Walking by faith simply means you walk by something that you cannot see physically. You are already walking and you're good. But if you can do both, that's even better. So the metaphor in this one, the symbolic story is the story of Moses. When there is a big Red Sea in front of him and he continues to walk in faith, right? Now the Red Sea in every one of our lives is an obstacle. And the reason it's red is because it represents emotions a lot of the time, some kind of harsh thing in the way. So what happens is we look at the obstacle itself and then that stops us. So we just want to continue walking by faith. No matter what the obstacle is in front of us, we continue. And then somehow, because of faith or by something we can't see, as we continue to walk forward, the sea itself splits. So there's no problem. So at the end of the day, you must continue to walk by what you cannot see. And then what's in your way, whatever obstacle is there, it moves out of the way for you because you are walking by faith. And that makes sense. Okay, what is the difference between my will and God's will? Okay, this is a very good one. There is no difference, or there should not be a difference between your will and God's will, because you and God are one being and one entity. To say that God's will is separate from yours, this simply means that there is separation. You want to have it to the point where you and God, your higher self, or the universe, are one. What you want for yourself is what God wants for you. And sometimes in the Bible you see where it says, not my will, but your will. This simply means the human nature that we have is separate from God's will. So we look around in our physical environment and we may say, I want money. I want money and it has to be like this and like this and like this. It has to be through this job, through this way, through this avenue, this specific way of being. But what happens is God has much bigger ideas a lot of times for you. And this is what that means, not my will, but yours. We can say, I want a house by the beach, but you may not be ready for the problems that happen with a house by the beach, and it may not be for you. So what this means when it's God's will, it's the best possible outcome that you could want for yourself without you even knowing. That is what's God's will. So it's your will, but amplified 100-fold, 100 times, because it's something you can't even imagine. It's what you want, but better. That's what is meant by God's will. It's your will together with God, working together, because He has a bigger, better plan for you. Sometimes we get caught up in what we think we want, and there's nothing wrong with wanting things per se, wanting better experiences, wanting material things even. But God always has a bigger plan. The lesson in the Bible is always, God wants good things for you. He never wants anything bad to happen to you. But what happens is, it happens to us because of our own stubbornness, our lack of understanding. But essentially, God's will is always your will. There's always a close relationship. It's always one. There is no separation. Another differentiation I want to make as well, when you read like the Bible and things like this, you see in the Bible it says things like, not my will, your will. I explained that one, and there was another one that came to my mind. It was, and I drew a blank. Yeah, no, I don't remember. It was something along those lines. It was, let me try to remember. Not my will, your will. Oh yeah, I can do nothing of myself. Only God can do things. What that means is that there's nothing that you can physically do to change anything. So there's nothing that you should do and can do. So if you want to go from point A to point B in your manifestation, there is actually nothing you can do. It all requires a change in mindset and your mentality. That's what is meant. So a lot of times these verses can be used to take away power from you, from the idea that you can do something. But what it simply means is you can. You just have to connect with God's will, in other words. You have to be one with God, and you have to recognize the relationship that you have. It's not you and God. There's no external thing that is trying to stop you. It's just you and him working together. So it's not my will, it's your will. So you're passing it on to something better. And then when you say, I can do nothing, only God can do things for me, you're saying, I'm passing it on to something bigger than me, my imagination. I'm meditating, I'm embodying a state, and then God is making it happen. The universe, your higher self, is making it happen for me. That's what that means. So it's not necessarily saying you're doing anything wrong or there's nothing you can do. It's just simply you're passing it along to a higher power, and it's doing it for you. So you let go. And once you recognize this, then you can let it go peacefully. There's no reason to over obsess with it, to try to control and force things. It's just happening to you. You see? So now God is doing it for you, which simply means that you're doing it for yourself, but you let it go and you pass it along. Now it's just happening, and now you're just existing. And then the universe is helping you, or God is helping you. That's what it means. So hopefully that clears up some things about God's will and how there's nothing you can do, because there's something you can always do. But physically, sometimes you're just stuck. Sometimes you can't do anything physically to escape your reality. And that's the reality of a lot of people. If you have no money and you live in a place that's impoverished, sometimes there's absolutely nothing you can do. And that's terrible. But the good news, what is meant by the gospel, is that there's something that you can do. Something you can do in your mind, in manifestation, embodying the state. That is what you can do, always. It's free, it's available to everybody. There's no privileged people. It's available for me and you and everybody who understands these things. That's it. It's not a special technique. It's nothing. It's something that dwells within you, being a human being to the maximum potential. It's not necessarily trying to be holy. It's not doing anything special necessarily. It's just understanding how these things work, and that's all. Okay. All right. Well, I hope that answers everything. So today's topic was obsession, persistence. Persist in your end result. Become obsessed with it and let it go at the same time. All of those things have importunity, persistence to the point of annoyance, where that's just what it must be. Embody that state. And then nothing can get in your way. All the obstacles in your life will move out of the way for you. Okay, I see another question here. How come bad people manifest great lives? I like that one. You know why? Because manifestation is not about good and bad. It's just about understanding states of mind. It doesn't matter if you're a good or a bad person. So an example I can give is if you're walking outside during a thunderstorm, you can get struck by lightning whether you're a good or a bad person. That's just the way the universe works. Now, if you can understand how your mind works and how your subconscious works, then you understand that it doesn't really matter. A bad person can manifest bad things because they understand that when you embody this state, then that's just what it's going to be. That's all. You're just manifesting what you want. That's it. There's no good and bad. So essentially, again, it goes back to it's God's will, whatever it is that you want. You can use manifestation to manifest bad things. It's advised not to, but essentially it's not a moral thing. There is no good and bad when it comes to it. Generally, bad people manifest because there's nothing holding them back a lot of times. I feel like a lot of times in the Christian community, there is a lot of money is the root of all evil. I have to do the right thing and sacrifice myself. But a lot of times in the Bible, it's not even talking about that. So, because symbolically, when it says sacrifice yourself, deny yourself, it's not saying to deny your manifestation. It's just saying to let go of your old self to become your new self. So if you're trying to manifest a new identity, a new life, then you let go of the old one. That's what it means to deny yourself, your old self, into the new one. But when you're a bad person, you're not thinking about this. You're just saying, I just want to be this. That's it. There's no sense of morality anymore. And that's the only difference. So hopefully that answers that question. There is no morality in manifestation. All it is the way it is. There's no morality. It's like energy. You can use it for good or bad. Fire can be used to burn somebody, or it can warm you up in the winter. Okay. So if there's no more questions, I'll go ahead and wrap it up here. But I'll give it just a few more minutes for any last minute questions here, yeah. What do I mean by bad things happen to us? God doesn't want that to happen. Okay, so if you read the Bible, right, generally it's saying God has the highest ideals for you. He thinks the world of you. He thinks you're the greatest thing ever. And the idea is that he doesn't want any harm to befall you. So by consequence, we blame bad things on the devil or Satan. So we say, it's not God that wants bad things to happen to us, it's the devil, okay? So there's two characters. When bad things happen, that is the devil. Symbolically, the devil represents the opposite of what you want. Satan simply means the adversary. That's what it translates to. So if you want money, your adversary is being poor. If you want marriage, your adversary is being single. This is the way it works. It's always the opposite. So the devil essentially is when you look at your physical environment here and it's confirming that you don't have what you're trying to manifest. That's all. But your higher self, the universe and God always wants the best for you. Exactly what it is you want. He wants to lead you, quote unquote, to the promised land, to blessing, to infinite prosperity, to health, happiness. That's what it means. So his will is always for you to be healthy, happy, prosperous. That is the truth. That is the reality. Yeah, exactly. Bad things would be the opposite of your manifestation. And that's all. It simply means missing the mark, in other words. And if you want to get even deeper, all sin is missing the mark and allowing bad things to happen to you. That's it. Like I mentioned, there's no morality in the universe per se. There's no good and bad. It's all just one. The Bible says God creates good and evil. It's both. It's just a matter of understanding. Sin is missing the mark, what you want, as far as manifestation, not realizing that you can do something about your life, being a victim to life, in other words. Adam and Eve were created to be above the animals, the world, the earth, everything. In other words, have dominion over everything. But it's not that way. So that means that somewhere along the line, we forgot that. So now those things are above us, or at least it feels that way. But it shouldn't be that way. And to be above all of these things, to be above our experiences, the physical reality that we live in, is to just realize and recognize that we are above them, the way God intended it to be. In other words, living in Eden or paradise. So doing the things you don't want is sin. Like thinking you don't deserve, that's the devil. Yeah. It's always the adversary. It's something fighting you, something battling you, something going against you. Because if you want something better for your life, and then you hear that little voice in your head saying you can't have it, you're not good enough, you're never going to have it, that's essentially the devil, in other words, Satan. Because it's just like, you can never have it, you're not good enough. Therefore, it shuts you down, limits your imagination, limits the way you think, and keeps you stuck and keeps you suffering. And that's the way it works. God and the devil actually have a funny play on words. And I guess this is one of the last things I'll mention here. So, yeah, I'll bring out the board. I have it right here. Hopefully you guys can see it. I feel like it's like reversed on the camera. But we'll go ahead. God is like this. This is how you spell God, right? G-O-D. God. Devil. God and the devil. So it's good and evil. That's the play on words. So with God, God is simply good with a O removed. You just remove that. And you have the word God, good. So these are the good things you want in your life. This is your manifestation. Devil is simply evil. You just remove the D and you have the word evil. That's it. So it's good and evil. So the evil in your life would be you suffering for no reason. When you're trying to have a better life for yourself, when you feel like you're stuck, that is evil. It's your adversary. Those voices in your head that say you can't have it, you will never have it, and that stop you from doing what you're supposed to do with your life, which is fulfill your desire. And then God is always the state where you embody it at the end. Your I am consciousness, where you can have whatever you want. That's the difference. That's the play on words. That's what it is symbolically. So it's always a battle. The battle between good and evil happens within you every single day of your life. It's not something that happens externally. It's something that happens within you in your own mind. Those wrestling moments, you wrestling with God, trying to get your manifestation. That's it. That's the whole story. You are the story. Essentially, it's about the unfolding of your consciousness, realizing, expanding your awareness, realizing that you're no longer a victim. That's the message. Okay. Now, I hope that answers everything. I'll leave it open for a few questions if anybody has any questions, you can feel free to ask. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up today. Again, originally it was just about obsession, persistence, put on your new identity, let go of the other one. It's like putting on clothes. It's like, let's say you have a t-shirt on. This is your old self, a green t-shirt, and you want to put on a new version of yourself. You got to take this shirt off and put on the other shirt. Otherwise, if you put on the new shirt, this will still be on you. It doesn't really matter. You want to put on the new shirt, take this one off, put that one, and then stop, let it go. That's what persistence means, obsession. That's it. All right, thank you. I appreciate you. All right. Well, with that, I'll let you guys go. I'll be on next week around the same time, next Sunday, like around 8 p.m. Eastern time. And I hope to do these more often. Again, create a community where we can just talk about these things. And let me know if you guys like the spiritual allegories, I guess you can say, because I can always bring those out with the Bible and everything like this. But yeah. All right. All right, yeah, with that, you guys can always reach out to me through my comments section or anywhere. If you guys have any ideas for me to talk about or anything, you guys can feel free to message me as well. I can always talk about these things in the live or make a video about them. Does that mean we stop walking in the states? Yeah, that just means you always walk in the end state, the state that you want for yourself. That's it. You don't want to walk through your old state, in other words. So like the Bible verse for this would be like, God shines the lamp at your feet. So he's showing you where to go. Once you're thinking from the end state, you're no longer thinking from the old one. But yeah. All right, well, I'll let you guys go. I'll be on next week. And thank you guys for watching. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. So have a nice night. I'll see you guys.